Okay, hello everybody. I'm glad to see we've got some people checked in already. I see Kiki's out there and Jaylene, Gary Gray, welcome. Lori, welcome. Paul, welcome. We've got a really great show lined up for you guys today. Welcome to the show. My name's Terry and welcome to COTURNIX Corner Live. Today we have guest speaker Tanya Slucher Long, who will be talking about keeping quail in a naturalistic environment, and she's going to be showing us her setup and some of her birds, and she'll also be taking your questions later on in the show. If you guys would do me a favor and type the letter Q in front of your questions for Tanya, that'll just make it easier to distinguish the questions from the comments. Also, I have a couple quick announcements that I need to make before we get rolling on the show. From now on, the show is going to be live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Saturday streams that me and Zach were doing on the second Saturday of the month, we're canceling those, and Zach will be coming in on Tuesday. And the next time Zach will be in here will be on the 18th. Also, we've got a really great lineup of guest speakers that I've got scheduled for the show. And if you want to see what that list of speakers is, I've got it posted over on the COTURNIX Corner Facebook group page. So, yeah, I think that's about it for the announcements. I'm really excited to get going and hearing what Tanya's got to say. So let's get started. Okay, we are here with Tanya Slucher Long. Tanya, welcome to the show, and thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. I really appreciate it. Tanya, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and talk a little bit about how you got started with quail, and tell us a little bit about your setup over there?
Well, basically, we've been on this small property for going on about 18 years. We have about 3/4 acre in a little neighborhood that we purchased to raise our 3 kids, and for me to go to dental school. So I've been a dentist, having my own practice now for the last 12, 13 years. We decided to do a backyard remodel around 2018, and we had a section of yard behind the pool that used to be a pen for our dogs that we weren't really using for anything. So I decided I wanted to try chickens, and so my husband, built me a pen. We got a few chickens. Chicken math happened. And then I said, well, I want to try quail because quail are easier to handle, take up less space, are less destructive, and very, very tasty.
Oh, yeah.
So we took what was formerly the free-range area of our yard, and we built a fence and covered it in netting, so that all of the birds would have plenty of room to roam and be outside without fear of aerial predators and escapes, etc.
Right.
And I have had to make several upgrades, several changes. As you can see from the pictures, I still have a lot of staining to do. Here we just added the smaller pergola aviary that holds my pet birds, my button quail, my zebra finches, and my parakeets.
Okay.
So we have those as well.
Okay. Tanya, what benefits have you noticed by keeping your quail in a natural aviary type setup?
They're, for me, much easier to handle. They're very happy. I keep about 50 COTURNIX quail of all different colors at any one time. And there is slightly less aggression quail on quail, even when the numbers, ratios get a little out of hand.
Uh-huh.
So, right now I have probably a dozen males. We just reduced those numbers from overbreeding behavior. So it is very nice. They have the ability to dust bathe. They adapt and do really well during the winter for the most part. And they're very, very fun.
I see you're out with your birds right now. Can you take us for a little tour around there and kind of show you what you got?
Yes, I will. I will start. I've been giving them a little treat along the way, so I will start by throwing out some treats, and you can see most of the birds when I do that.
Okay.
I do currently have almost at least one of every color that my Shire farm offers.
Look at that turkey. Do the quail actually go up into that little house there? Do they go up that ramp?
Yes, they do occasionally go up into the house. It was initially a turkey house.
Uh-huh.
It has been used by some silkies to brood quaturnic eggs. And they really like to stay underneath it. And I believe I have one that is acting broody underneath it.
I'll be darned.
Not sure. See her chef.
All right, that's great.
Have our book. I do have a deck with a duck pond for the ducks that I keep occasionally, and have several hideaways that I've both made and purchased. Log type, here, and then I took a patio bench and converted it on litter, a couple of more houses and things. I use a 50-pound range for the main feed I had this year, and a 5-gallon waterer to my main water.
And you don't have any problems with those other birds interacting with your quail?
It's very tricky. You do have to be prepared for, you have to be prepared for problems.
Right.
And also adding birds and
Okay.
most birds that I were raised 6 quail that so
Okay, Tanya, your audio's cutting out again. If you can move around a little bit.
I stay very and then we have attempted several different live plantings. Had to move the planting plant outside for health, but pheasant was climbing up in there and eating my flowers. And we will go ahead now and move up to the deck. I think I did send you some pictures as far as the netting and the gate latch.
Yeah, right. I've got the latch on right now. And what is this turnbuckle? I just brought up the turnbuckle image. What is that for?
Well, basically, we started with the PVC frame because it was inexpensive and easily reversible. We figured out through lots of research that the wire system is much stronger and more effective for holding the netting.
Okay.
So we added it with the heavy-duty netting, and we eventually plan to remove all of the PVC.
Gotcha. Now that wiring that you've got over the whole thing, is that a wire or is that a cloth, or what is that?
That's a heavy-duty aviary netting. It's a 1-inch netting. It's the smallest that I could find in that grade. We started with a less expensive version that basically when it showed up, it was kind of like fishnet stockings. And I had a lot of rips, tears. We had a hawk invasion. We had raccoons get in, all kinds of issues. But this netting is by Kenyon Hatch Farms on Amazon.
Okay.
And while it is more expensive, it is rated for like 800-pound capacity.
Wow.
And basically, if hawks come over now, they bounce off.
Do you have any issues with other predators like snakes or rats or coons or anything?
Well, we did have a family of raccoons that was raised in a neighbor's attic. Decided to teach the babies their feeding techniques inside my aviary.
Okay.
So that prompted the better netting, as well as I run a 2-wire electric fence around the top perimeter of my entire area.
Okay. Tanya, I've got a question from Heather. She wants to know where you're located.
I'm in southern Indiana, basically the heart of the Midwest, and so we have lots of rain, very variable weather, very poor drainage. So we could have. Luckily, we have not had a really snowy winter since I built the aviary. But we do get lots of freezes. It was down to the negative 20s since I started quail.
Can you talk a little bit about how you do the bedding that's in the cage?
Yeah.
How often does it have to be turned, stuff like that?
Well, right now, luckily, we don't have smell-o-vision because it is in serious need of turning. Unfortunately, with the Midwest, this has been another rainy summer.
Right.
And so I usually try to turn it every 6 weeks or so, depending on the number of birds I'm running. And we remove and replace with fresh mulch as needed. I just buy the least expensive mulch possible from whatever supply store that I'm shopping at the time.
Okay.
And for the entire aviary, it takes about 20 bags of mulch.
And that's just regular mulch, like eucalyptus mulch, or?
Just pine mulch.
Okay, pine mulch. Okay, good. Okay, Tanya, we got another question. The frog feeder wants to know if the pheasant's wings are clipped.
No.
No, so they can fly around.
Particular male pheasant has escaped on me before we changed the netting. At least twice. He was the only one to hang around and be retrieved multiple times.
Okay. Have you ever had any of your quail hens go broody and actually, sit on the eggs and hatch them out?
I have a bunch that act broody. However, I've chosen not to let them sit because most of the time they give up after a day or two.
Right. Okay. Okay. Can you talk a little bit about if somebody wants to get started setting up you know, a setup like this, the type of materials and stuff they could use. I mean, your setup looks pretty elaborate, and I'm pretty sure it was pretty pricey. What about the? I'm sorry.
Actually, my setup was basically done on the cheap to
Right.
be reversible. We have made some investments in upgrades over time for the safety of the birds, but in general, you know, we started with an existing privacy fence that is 8 foot, and we were already adding the deck side. So basically, it was just some 4x4 posts covered in wire.
Okay.
And you know, the total cost, my investment, I'm estimating at about $1,500 total.
Okay. I got a question here from Tyler Shepard. He says, Tanya, how many birds per square foot is your setup for, and does it require a lot of maintenance?
Well, my total square footage is between 600 and 700 square feet, and most of the time I run about 50 quail, 4 or so pheasants, and then the occasional turkeys, ducks, etc. that rotate in and out.
Right.
And so I estimated once that each bird has about 10 square feet per bird.
Okay. How do the birds do in the rain, in the weather? I mean, do they mind the rain, or?
Some of them like the rain. Again, the heavy rains, they mostly take cover in the hideaways.
Okay.
In the rainy days, I will find more eggs in the hideaways than I do just out in the park.
Gotcha.
The only time we've encountered problems is during the spring with the flooding. If I happen to release quail a little bit too early, at 3 to 4 weeks,
Okay.
and we get a really hard rain with a dip in temperatures, I have lost a few quail.
Okay. Kiki says, I'm not hearing any boys. I don't know what that means, but.
I'm not hearing any boys. Yes, my male quail numbers are down a little bit, and
Okay.
they aren't crowing as loudly as usual on my broadcast.
Gotcha. Right. Okay. Are there any issues that can arise by keeping your birds in an aviary setup? You know, as far as like maybe disease or, you know, just issues that you can run into?
I've been very lucky, even though I do run a mixed flock. I haven't had a lot of issues. The main things are when the male pheasants or other male birds mature, they don't understand that they're not quail, and they can traumatize some of the other species of birds
Gotcha.
in their hormone rate.
Right.
That's why a lot of my quail and pheasants, etc., are bald right now, is I just had to remove a drake
Okay.
that reached the.
Gotcha.
The other issue is the escape thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have the carabiner second latch on my gate latch.
Okay.
Is if that gets left off, some of my birds have pushed the gate open, and I found them all free ranging in the yard.
Let's see. Rena wants to know, how are they being kept safe from predators? I know you went over that a little bit, but you want to touch on that again?
Yes, I use the heavy duty netting. A lot of my property is a concrete footer and the privacy fence helps to protect from snakes, not completely, but it does help. And then I run a 2-wire electric around all of the fencing that you see, the railing, as well as the top of the privacy fence, top of the shed, to prevent raccoons from climbing over to the net.
Gotcha. I know we were talking the other day when we were testing out your Skype about your neighbors. Do you have any issues with the noise from the birds and your neighbors, or not really?
Again, we were annexed into the city, and they have enacted bird ordinances that are only enforced by complaint only.
Okay.
The only time that I did have a complaint was when I had hatched a chicken rooster that I was somewhat attached to, and I let him crow a few too many times.
Okay.
And I had a complaint, and I had to go through city inspections from both animal control and zoning. And I also had to, at that time, get my state permit for the pheasants.
Okay. EA wants to know, how long does it take you to collect eggs?
About 10 minutes.
Really? You don't have to hunt and peek for them, or?
I know the general areas where they lay by now. Most of the time it is at it used to be the perimeter of the fence.
Okay.
But a lot of them are under that coop that was the beginning,
Right.
in the hideaways, in the patio bench, and some just around the run. And I collect up to 3 dozen a day.
Wow, not bad. Let's see here. Paul Walton says, what do you feed your birds, Tanya? And you have quite a mixture, so how do you balance the protein and calcium needs for each one?
I've been, again, very lucky. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of options with my local supplier. So I default to just the Country Roads meat bird feed, which is in the 20s on protein,
Okay.
low on protein, and all of the birds seem to do well on that. I do supplement with treats 1 to 2 times daily of dried mealworms and scratch greens.
Is that crumbles that you're feeding?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, meat bird crumbles, and the range feeder that I showed, it holds 50 pound up to 50 pounds, and then I put out separate feeders as well.
Do you have any problems with the rain getting the feed wet or anything, or not really?
Again, the range feeder has helped a lot because it is under a canopy, as well as having a cover on it. My other feeders do tend to get wet, and I have to push the feed down and get it to the cycle.
Okay. What can you recommend how somebody can go about getting started with setting up something like you've got?
Well, there's several different ways. If you already have an enclosed area that you don't have a use for, that especially dog kennels are a good place to start. The sub-aviary that we built is pergola style. They're relatively inexpensive and simple to build, DIY. And then that one we just covered in 1/2-inch hardware cloth.
Okay.
And we did put plastic corrugated roofing on the sub-aviary as well.
Okay. Tyler Shepard also says, with your setup, have you ever had an issue with earth or droppings collecting around the quail's feet, like after heavy rains and whatnot? And does it cause any issues like bumblefoot or anything?
I have the occasional bumblefoot, the occasional issue with someone will step on a piece of trash out there and get a swollen foot, things like that.
Gotcha.
But typically we cull about up to once a month, and so I usually just pick and choose the birds that have issues to go.
Right. Jay says, it's too funny. Ours lay for a while in the same spots, and then they'll change it up, and it keeps us on our toes.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you want to, go in a little bit more in depth on as far as if somebody was to get into trying to do this?
Again, a lot of it is trial and error. A lot of it, has to be customized. But I have, maximized the space and tried to minimize the investment.
Gotcha.
So it can be done. You can repurpose, dog kennels that you have.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends on how many birds and what type of birds you're planning on keeping.
Well, I've got a 10 by 12 foot slab out back, concrete slab, and I'm thinking of setting up something like that. How many birds do you think I could put in that and, not have any issues?
You could, in a 10 to 12, if you were just running COTURNIX quail,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could probably have 30 to 50
Oh, okay.
that square footage. You just have to take, give at least a minimum of 1 square foot per bird,
Gotcha.
and subtract any lost square footage to their hideaways, girl feeder walking spaces.
Right. What is that thing behind you? It looks like a gray, almost like a hammock or something hanging in there.
Oh yeah, that is a sail canopy.
Okay.
It started out purple. I had a purple and a pink one. Again, that does offer some shade and some protection from wetness. During the rainy times, we put canopies out there. We put umbrellas out there. We've done everything to try to give the quail some relief.
Gotcha. Okay. Anybody else in here have any questions for Tanya? Now is your time to post them. And Tanya, if you, whatever else you think we need to know, let us know about it. Because like I say, I'm really seriously thinking about setting up something outside for my quail.
Well, I did, again, I talked a little bit about live plantings. Even quail can just completely destroy live plantings. So, initially I wanted grass and clover and all of this stuff down. I've tried the little weed and feed coverings that have the straw and everything. It's just a matter of finding something tall enough that they can go under but not eat.
Right.
And trying to protect it as much as you can. But they will not only eat, but they will also dig and dust fade until a small plant completely dies.
Gotcha. Kiki wants to know, do you sell eating or hatching eggs?
I really haven't gotten into the selling end. I have, sold a few live quail. I've sold a few eggs here and there. But mostly we do everything for personal use and employment.
Okay. Jay would like to know when to integrate chicks with mature hens. How do you introduce new birds to your flock?
Typically, it depends on the size of the hatch. But since I added the sub-aviary, I have started putting, groups of 6 or 10 inside there with the button quail and the other birds, and giving about 3 weeks or so of look but don't touch before integrating them into the full flock. Also, I have locked them into the patio hideaway with separate food and water, and tried to keep the other birds from getting in there. And I have just released them on a whim under close supervision.
Okay.
Try to keep any issues from them.
Natina Martin wants to know, let's see, what about up here in Canada with minus 40-degree winters? What would I need to have for them?
Probably most of the time, as long as they have shelter, and I do in some cases put a cozy coop heater that they can get to if they need it inside the patio bench or one of the houses. Even down to the negative 20s and things. Again, I really haven't lost that many quail from the cold. It's just the area that I live in, it can be, 40 degrees and raining, and then overnight turn into negative 20 degrees.
Right, now you got ice.
So again, it's the variable weather here. Now my ultimate plan is to build a separate room inside my shed that I can better control heat, so that any vulnerable birds or my pet birds, the finches, etc., exotics, could go inside the shed for winter versus having to go indoors to the house.
Okay, good. Okay, Jay asked, he says, I have mature hens that I would like to integrate with 3-week-old chicks. Is that too young?
It depends on the setup. You could try hens with 3-week-olds and supervise them to see how they do. Look, don't touch for a couple of days helps, and or waiting until they're 4-ish weeks and then still supervise.
Okay. Yeah, Jay says, I'm asking because the last hatch I had were mature at 4 weeks and posed some integration problems. I think they were feathered out at 4 weeks. So, okay. What kind of incubator do you use?
I currently own 3 very inexpensive incubators. I have 2 of them are 56 chicken egg incubators that I have put quail eggs in. And I have a Jano L12, which I believe you did a review on, Terry.
I think I did, yes. Yep.
And I mostly use it as a hatchery now versus an actual incubator. Again, I am looking at better quality incubators, but if you salt test your hygrometer, you know what your humidity is exactly, and your accessory thermometers,
right,
you basically hatch successfully in any incubator.
Yep. Kiki wants to know, what's your favorite color?
It's hard for me to decide because I do have so many colors. I tend to choose favorites by personality more so than color.
Okay. Kentucky Green Thumb says, we have been having problems with ankle-biting bobwhites. How can we prevent this? Someone suggested axle grease? I don't know about that.
I haven't. The only time I had a toe pecking problem was the last set of turkey poults that I ran through, and I ended up separating them into their own area because they were mistaking the quail feet for mealworm.
Yeah. Okay. Natina Martin, what are your thoughts on dry hatching?
I do a lot of dry hatching because I learned, truthfully, I learned the most about hatching from having my broody silkies incubate my eggs.
Okay.
And so I tend to go with the ambient humidity
Right.
works best. So, you know, for my area, that's typically, you know, in the times that I hatch runs about, you know, 30%. And so I try to only add enough water necessary to keep it steady at the 30%, depending on whether I'm running the incubator in the house or in the shed.
Right. Yeah, I do a dry hatch probably 99% of the time. I mean, our ambient humidity is usually around 50 to 70% every day. So even into lockdown, half the time I don't need to add any water, and that it seems to work pretty well for me also. Kiki says wrong answer, Muddy. Natina says fantastic. Thank you so much. Kiki, is there anything else that you want to add that I haven't asked a question about? Something that you want to throw in there, or Kiki's got you going, huh?
I'm sure she wasn't referring to your dry hatching, because she is the queen of dry hatching, living in Texas where it's very humid.
Yes, that's true. Her favorite color is pansy fee. That's what Kiki's saying. Yeah, anything else you want to throw in, Tanya? As far as, I mean, something I overlooked, or?
No, I think we've basically covered it. I'm kind of surprised that there weren't more questions, but it is pretty self-explanatory seeing my setup.
Right. Yeah, and it's a beautiful setup. I love it. I was talking with my wife about it yesterday, and Kiki says she was referring to your answer about your favorite color.
Oh.
Okay, we have another comment that says 30% humidity gets my best results also. Brad says howdy from Casper, Wyoming. Sorry we're late. Reminder didn't work. Here's a question for you. How long does a hen stay fertile once she's bred?
Well, I mean, basically, once you have her with the males, the eggs should stay fertile at least 2 weeks, or be fertile within at least 2 weeks,
okay, and
stay fertile for at least 2 weeks after the males are removed.
Okay.
Now, I rarely have a shortage of males out there.
Okay. Do you have any issues with fighting or aggression, or not really?
Again, most of my aggression that I've seen is not quail on quail. Occasionally you'll get some, but it's extremely rare, but they do have so much space.
Right.
There is some overbreeding when my male numbers get a little out of control after a new hatch, new introduction, new males coming into their own. Okay. But again, most of my aggression problems are mixing of the species of bird.
Gotcha. Kiki says, fantastic setup. Thank you for bringing us into your home.
Thank you for coming, Kiki.
Okay, we are at the end of our question list. Does anybody else have any questions that they want to direct to Tanya regarding her setup, or we've already answered that question. How long will the hens stay fertile? Yeah, post your questions now. Kiki, if you want, or Kiki, I'm sorry, Tanya, if you want, could you give us a quick walk around the deck there and kind of show us the setup?
Go out here. I do hear some more boys, and we. Pheasant chicks are venturing out, as well as the male pheasant.
Oh yeah. Wow, there's quite a few quail out there.
You can see, but this is a pansy female. I have an Egyptian an Italian. Autumn amber male just ran by, a couple of jumbos, groupies. And we have a scarlet running in there. Another scarlet red range.
Is that bird over by the turkey? Is that your female pheasant?
By the turkey, yes, she
Okay.
is. That's my female that I hatched the 2 chicks from, and then my male is running away from me here, and that's his little male there, and my 2 ducks.
Okay.
And you can see some of them eating out of the range feeder here. Now, what will happen with the levels there, if the levels do get too low for the quail, they will actually climb inside the range feeders.
Okay.
And they are pretty proficient in getting in and out.
Okay. I got a question here for you. Rooster Rev wants to know, is there one type that is best for beginners? And I don't know if they're talking about quail or any type of bird, but
I would say, as far as beginners go, either a feather sexable mix or the sex linked, so that you do know exactly from day one on the sex linked how many males, how many females, who's going to be staying and who's going to be going.
gotcha. Paul wants to know, do your birds bed down together, or they kind of go their separate ways, and how's that work?
They all have their areas. Most of them do roost outside, which they're all trying to get ready for now.
Okay.
Yeah, the pairs will typically stick together. As far as the like the ducks, the turkeys, all of that, they will bed down together. But it's nothing during the day to see several quail in the mix just bathing.
Gotcha. Okay, we are at the end of our list again. Anybody else have any questions? Post them now. Rooster Rev says sex links quail, ? Was not aware of those. Yes, I believe that's Egyptians over normal pharaoh.
It's pharaoh hens over with an Egyptian male.
Okay. Yep. Let's see. Nicholas says, we love hearing them crow. They sound like they're arguing. It says, my thing's moved on me. They look happy and plump. Do you weigh your birds, and what's the biggest that you breed?
Again, 90% of mine are my Shire eggs, and they are all different colors. I said this last jumbo batch I was going to grab them and weigh them in weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Time got away from me. So in general, I weigh them after process.
Okay.
Most of my go order little low, between 1/4 and 1/2 process.
Okay. Let's see. Adirondack TP says, thanks for the tour. A great guest. Albert Noah has a question, wants to know, does anybody else find that Texas A&Ms are more aggressive? What are your thoughts on that, Tanya?
I actually, because 90% of mine have come from my Shire farm, I've never had any experience with the Texas A&M.
Right.
Most of my whites, however, I've noticed they're the most bullied.
The most bullied, or they are the bullied?
They're the ones that take the brunt of the bullying. Yep. Usually on the weaker side. That is one batch I have not hatched the jumbo whites from my sucker.
Right. Let's see. Do you ever feed your bird hemp leaves? Ducks can't get enough of that. I don't think they're legal in Indiana. I know they're not legal here in Florida.
Well, you can. There is a lot of hemp grown around here.
Really?
That in fact, one of my colleagues in the Kentucky side does grow hemp. They do regulate it to make sure that it does not have the THC levels.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, they will remove the field. But I personally, I have never tried hemp leaves because I don't grow or do that myself.
Right.
We have a garden, but we do have a small garden, and I'm anxious to cut up a couple of cucumbers and see how they like that after hearing Zach talk about using his cucumbers.
Oh, mine love cucumbers. They want the cucumbers every day. They eat cucumbers. They eat spaghetti squash. Pretty much anything I throw in the cages, they'll eat. See, Robert says, do you have any experience raising quail in a movable or portable coop where they get a fresh pad of grass daily? I think he's talking like a chicken tractor.
Yeah. I have seen a lot of people try that. Unfortunately, I only have 3/4 of an acre, so I don't have the luxury of moving them on.
Right. Rooster Rev says, Tanya, it's a pleasure seeing your setup. Horton Creek Gardens says, very inspiring. I'm putting an aviary on my 5-year plan. See, Natina says, what do you give your birds to increase the calcium? Anything other than oyster shell?
Again, with me only collecting eggs once a day, I tried oyster shell. Some of the chicken oyster shell is too big unless you grind it up, and I did lose quail to probable crop as a result of binging on the oyster. But again, I get a day, and typically if they are lacking in calcium and or if another bird cracks it open, they will eat the eggs to get any necessary calcium.
Right. Yep. Rooster Ray says quail love cucumbers. MS says mine love kale and blueberries. And then Jay says, yeah, crushed eggshells. Yep. Okay. Any other questions for Tanya while we've still got her here? It's 10 minutes to 8, so we've got about 10 minutes before we wrap things up. So if you have any more questions, get them in. I do have one question for you, Tanya. How can people get a hold of you if they have any questions? I know you're on that Backyard Chickens group, pretty much, aren't you?
Yes. Muddy 75, and of course my little backyard farm is called Muddy 75 Farms, okay. Which does have a Gmail email address. I am also on Newbie Quail Lovers and COTURNIX Corner and My Shire Farm Quail Auctions. On Facebook, I don't check Facebook as often as I'm typically on Backyard Chickens a little bit more. Okay. But I do, I do answer all messengers, and occasionally, if I get a notification, I can, find it on Facebook.
Gotcha. William Foster says, very nice, Tanya. They are not talking to us. I guess they're talking to each other. Is the roof... Here's a question from Nicole. Says, is the roof just netting or... Wait a minute. Is the roof just netting or just the way it looks? Have you had an issue with predators?
Yeah. The roof is just a heavy-duty 1-inch netting stretched across the wire and the PVC frame, and it is surrounded, which maybe I can get over here so you can see. Electric fencing. Can you see that, Terry?
Yeah, I do.
So it's 2 wires all the way around the perimeter.
Okay.
And I have the wire here on little hooks.
Yep.
So that I can release the wire and take out some of the gumballs.
Okay.
Is secured to the wire with just zip ties. Some of them have been cut off, some of them haven't yet. I do have rope lights around the entire aviary as well that I do turn on some nights.
Okay. MS wants to know, Tanya, is your hair dyed purple on top?
Yes, this is a purple-red color that I went with this last color batch, but
Oh,
if I don't color, it would be mostly gray.
yeah. I hear you. Let's see. Somebody says their screen is trashed. Rooster Rev wants to know what angle of the floor is optimal so eggs roll out. Okay, well, I don't think he's directing that to you.
That's for you.
Yeah, my floors are about 1 inch per foot. I think I got like 2 3/4 inch fall and 36 inches. So. What are your thoughts on flaxseed, Tanya?
I haven't really used flaxseed. I have given them the occasional millet because I give millet to the parakeets
Okay.
and the button quail. But again, it's just accidental if they
Okay.
get.
All right. Well, we once again are down at the bottom of our list of questions. If nobody else has any questions, we'll go ahead and cut this short. It's 5 minutes to 8, so we pretty much went the gambit on this one. Again, Tanya, I want to say thank you very much for coming out and sharing your setup with us and answering the questions.
Well,
Okay, Tanya, you're going to have to move again. We didn't get any of that. It was all no audio.
Yeah,
There you
the
go.
only big issue to having this type of setup is, of course, you cannot have a very strict breeding program
Right.
because I don't really have a way unless I cage the colors that I'm shooting for.
Right.
So any eggs that I hatch myself is just an assortment.
Right. Rooster Rev says, Tanya, you rock.
Thank you, Rooster Rev.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I guess we're going to go ahead and pull the plug on this one. Again, Tanya, thank you very much. You don't know what it means to me, you coming on here. Kiki says, thanks, everyone. Thank you, Kiki, and I will be getting a hold of you regarding seeing you on the show. We will, hold on, we're getting more, oh, they're just comments. Jim says, thank you, Tanya. Jay says, thanks so much. And what was the reflecting called? I don't know what that means. Any idea what that means? What was the reflecting called? Oh, what is the roof netting called?
It is, there's several different companies. I found mine. It's just heavy duty 1-inch aviary netting.
Okay.
It's sold by Pinnion, Pinnion,
Okay.
or Pinnon Patch Farms on Amazon.
Okay.
And it depends on your size, the pricing. This size netting, I had to have like 50 by 100 square feet. which I did have a lot of leftovers. The cost on that is around $330, but it's well.
Okay, Brad says thank you also, and where can I sell adult birds? That's for somebody else. So, okay, Tanya. Again, thanks, and I will be getting a hold of you. I'm probably going to start my setup within the next couple weeks, and I'll send you some pictures, and I'm sure I'll have some questions for you as I get going.
Oh, I look forward to it. Like I said, Mr. Muddy, Mr. Long was a lot of the brains behind the design and the brawn behind the building, but I was with him every step of the way. Like I said, we did all of the work, just the two of us. Right. So if we can do it, I'm sure you'll have problems.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, Tanya, thanks again. Everybody that checked in tonight, I want to say thank you very much. We really enjoyed having you, and thanks for your questions for Tanya. Next week, we will have Chris Carnes from Slightly Redneck here, and he'll be telling us about his setup and his YouTube channel and whatnot. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Tanya.
Bye, Terry.
Bye-bye.